Welcome to the Parkinson's Project podcast. The Parkinson's Project seeks to erase the stigma associated with Parkinson's disease while empowering and inspiring those dealing with the affliction to live life to the fullest. The Parkinson's Project aspires to build an engaged, supportive community while examining the journey of living with Parkinson's disease through a positive, empowering perspective. Here is your host of the Parkinson's Project podcast, Tim McNiff.
Hello once again, everybody. My name is Tim McNiff, and I'd like to welcome you to the Parkinson's Project podcast. The Parkinson's Project seeks to eliminate the stigma associated with PD and instead empower and inspire those dealing with the affliction to live life to its fullest. The intent of the Parkinson's Project podcast is to share the stories of the people who are living with PD and to share best practices from the medical people who are on the front line working to find a cure. And of course, we're going to hear from the caregivers, those people who are helping Parkinsonians deal and adapt through diet, exercise, and of course, with love, understanding, and unconditional support. Now, we're going to try to keep our episodes to about 20 to 30 minutes in length, but if we're in the middle of a compelling conversation, we do reserve the right to extend that discussion to a second episode with the intent of delivering tangible, beneficial content to all of you who engage with us. And we encourage that engagement with an ultimate goal of putting ourselves out of business when there is no longer a need to talk about Parkinson's disease. And so it is with that, it is my great pleasure to welcome Mike Justak to the Parkinson's Project podcast. Mike, how are you, sir?
Hey, Tim, I'm good. I'm happy to join you and your pod people, podsters. I don't know what you call listeners, viewers.
Our podmunity? Yeah,
Pod
I don't know.
I like that one.
I never thought about it too much. For those of you who don't know, Mike is a fellow Minnesotan like myself, who's been living with PD for the past 18 years, and he wants to share his story in hopes of providing guidance for those who may be struggling to come to terms with their situation. Mike, you hear me say 18 years. Take me back to your diagnosis. What went through your mind, and does it seem like when I say 18 years that it was just like yesterday, or does it seem like 18 years?
No, 18 years is just wow, is kind of what you say. And for this, I guess that's about a minute a year for your podcast. So I guess I'll have to do some condensing. And did you know I think 18 is porcelain for my anniversary?
And I didn't get you anything.
No, yeah. So I'll have to deal with that. But 2004 is when I was diagnosed, and I like most people, the initial response I think I had was relief. The symptom I had involved a motor skill brushing my teeth, something real easy to do, except for me, I would brush and my hand would literally stop in mid-stroke. And, that's not normal. So we had to do some investigating, and it turned out, it was an early symptom for Parkinson's. And when he broke the news to me, I said it was like relief, because I was thinking cancer or a tumor of some sort. And so I was thinking the worst. And I really didn't know anything about Parkinson's or what I was going to be getting into. So I made it a little easier to stomach the initial diagnosis. But after that, you get home and you start researching and thinking. And I looked at myself and I go, well, I don't look like a guy that's sick. I didn't have any outward symptoms. I'm like in the 5% of Parkinson diagnosis that doesn't have visible tremor. So I've been very fortunate that way. I have everything else that goes with Parkinson's, but I didn't have tremor. And I went into denial, basically, which is kind of funny because I didn't want anybody to know that I had Parkinson's. My wife, it was really hard on her because she wanted to tell her family, we know what's wrong with Mike, and we could deal with it. But I didn't want her to tell them. It's almost like I was almost like ashamed that I had this stigma attached to me and what I'm doing now. So, it's kind of, when I think back on it, it's hard to believe that I didn't want to tell anybody. But, now I stand on the mountaintop yelling, Parkinson's, look at me, uh, see what it's all about.
When I met you, you were such a strong advocate, and that's why I really wanted to put you on this particular show, because I want people who are newly diagnosed and trip across this to come in and realize that, what, this is something that you can live with, and it's going to be a difficult run, but you can do this. Did you have a previous experience with that? Did you have any history of this in your family?
No, not at all. Not at all. Back to when I talk about the diagnosis, the Mayo doc, I'll share with you a secret that he didn't tell me back then. But there's a bright side to having Parkinson's, and that is it makes you better looking.
How is that?
Well, for 18 years now, I meet somebody, yourself included, and I walk up to them, they go, "Oh man, you look great. It's just amazing. You're doing so well. You look great." Before I had Parkinson's, I never heard that before. So I put two and two together.
You just keep getting better and better looking. You can't wait till tomorrow, because you get better looking every day.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Let's go back, Mike, if we can. You mentioned that you said, you withdrew after your diagnosis in a state of denial. How do you get from that point where you are in that state of denial and that shame where you don't want people to know, to where you are today? Because as we're going to tell people over the next 20, 25 minutes, you have become a very outspoken person when it comes to Parkinson's.
Right. And I mean, I don't think I told you, I started my own, kind of like my own mini group. The people obviously opposed to Parkinson's.
I'd never heard that one.
POOP. I have a whole slew of T-shirts that carry that slogan. Basically, it's like it's not a cause though; it's a movement.
Oh, ba-dum-bum. Rim shot.
Yeah.
You got a million of them, don't you, Mike?
I hope so.
Let's get back to this. How did you get to where you are about talking about Parkinson's from that position of shame and denial?
Well, it took about a year and a half. It was I was diagnosed in late 2004, and 2006. I came to a crossroads in my career. The company I was working for was was involved in an unfriendly takeover by the number one. I was with the number two business. I was in self-storage, and the number one industry leader came in and bought us out. And that's where I started my career. So I really didn't want to, I spent 7 years with them, really didn't want to go back to the table, so to speak. So I was really like in a crisis mode trying to figure out what to do. And at the same time, I got Parkinson's, and I have to worry about going through a new employer and how I'm going to handle that. So it kind of, I started down a path where I was trying to see what the Fox people were doing. And maybe there was a way I could contribute with them and get on board the team. And so I sent some letters, never got a response. But eventually, as the year went on, and I was invited to a scientific conference that the Fox Foundation was sponsoring in Chicago, made the trip there with my wife, and met Debbie Brooks, the CEO, and Karen Lees, who was in charge of fundraising. They were both at that meeting, and we talked. And I actually it was kind of like a mini interview from that, but they didn't have they were based in New York, and I wasn't looking to go to New York. So when all was said and done, I just had a plate full of great ideas, and I still needed a job. So I talked to a friend of mine that was my mentor, and he's the one that suggested that, well, if your ideas are so good, why don't you just start your own foundation? And if it works out really well, you'll have you can provide yourself an income from it as well. Well, I never really quite hit that point, but the foundation, he's the one that gave me the idea. And so in 2007, I contacted the IRS and got the forms and got signed up, started my own foundation, which really kind of gave me a way to take control over something that I felt I didn't have any control over. Now, I'm not saying everybody should run out and start a foundation, although you've had two on ahead of me that kind of follow that mantra, Jason and Eric, the Peloton guy.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's a way you could feel like you're getting some of that control back that you gave up to the disease itself.
So when one receives the diagnosis with the words incurable and progressive in it, it would seem that running out and starting your own 501c3 nonprofit wouldn't be in the handbook. Yet there you are, and you did that. And also with the same initials as the most famous Parkinsonian out there. Any cause for confusion there?
Well, the more confusion, the better, as far as I was concerned. Funny thing about when you're running a nonprofit, you're looking for any way to get yourself in the news or to attract the news media, so to speak, because it's all about promotion. And I've got some later on. I'll share with you some pieces of promotional stuff that I did that I thought, I'm going to get sued. And it's like, yeah, I hope so. But I never garnered enough views on the stuff I was doing to have that happen, or to test the waters, so to speak, I guess. But once I started the foundation, and you kind of, I guess I was lucky on some of the paths I picked. I went to an early onset conference on Parkinson's, U.S. It's kind of like a U.S. meeting. It was in Atlanta, and this was in 2008. And at this conference, they had a revolutionary new therapy for Parkinson's treatment, and it was called exercise, which is astounding when you think of how it's approached today. I mean, you can't walk out of the doctor's office on an initial visit without, what's your plan for exercise? But in 2008, it was a whole different story, and they had a breakout session that had the Nintendo Wii game system in it. Yep. And the balance board in particular, and they were showing what they called rehab, how it was being used in rehab and as therapies for people with Parkinson's. And also at this conference, there was a gentleman by the name of David Zid. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Tim.
I have not.
He authored a book called Delay the Disease back in 2008.
Okay.
And basically, this was a handbook of couple dozen exercises, stretching routines that you can do that would, quote unquote, delay the disease. So I invited David to Minneapolis with his, quote unquote, symposium. And this was the first thing my foundation did. And, we were hoping for 100 people or so to show up for it. I had 20. So it was a little disappointing. But we went on with it. David's doing his, going through his routines. And he comes to the point where he goes, I'm going to show you how to rise from a chair. And if you think about it, you don't think about it. When you need to get up, you just kind of, boom, you're up and out of your chair. Well, it doesn't always work that way with Parkinson's. First of all, when you're sitting in a chair like I am right now, I'm like all the way in the back, my butt's up against the back edge of the chair. And, that throws your balance centers are all kittywampus. So what he suggested was you move forward to the front edge of the chair, place your legs shoulder width apart, take your hands and kind of like a steam shovel, dig down and come up. And with that, you kind of raise yourself up out of the chair. So he demonstrates it and then he has us do it. And as we're doing it, you hear a voice in the back corner from a woman, and she goes, "It works. I did it. It worked. It worked." And so, everybody's heads are turning to see who's speaking. And the woman goes, "This is the first time in over 2 years that I've risen from a chair without assistance." Wow. And now she's crying. And David's crying. And I'm crying. My wife's crying. Everybody's crying. I mean, it's just an unbelievable moment. And afterwards, I told my wife that I kind of believe that, things in life happen for a reason. And that, there's pieces of destiny that are there. And if I didn't have the Parkinson's, these two may have never come together to help her improve her life. So I consider myself, fortunate that right out of the gate, I had this moment that just illustrates how a person can impact another person's life for the better. And I was off and running.
Well, and you've done that, because I want to let people know that I was aware of you, but I did not know you, and we are practically neighbors. We live probably within a half mile of each other, which I did not know that until when I met Mike. He was talking about his Christmas/holiday light show, which is in the Plymouth area, and I'm like, wait a minute, yeah, it runs, for. And I said, oh my God, I've driven by that. It's an annual, or it was at least an annual, because how many years did you do PD Shimmers, and why did you start it?
I did it for 12 years. So this last December was my last show that I did. Why did I start it? It was 2010, and it was Christmas Eve, I guess, 2009. And, Parkinson's patients they have very screwy sleep patterns. So I was up at Christmas Eve, Christmas morning, at 4 a.m, and turned YouTube on, just looking for something to watch other than the Yule log. And I saw there was it's Lights Gone Wild, and a house in Utah. It's the Richard Holdman house in a gated community. Had about 100,000 lights on it. And it was called the Amazing Grace House because he played one song, and it was Amazing Grace. And to see this, I watched it over and over again. And it was a synchronized light show. It's kind of what got me started. And I thought, well, not too many of these around here. Maybe it's a way I could get an in and get some news media attached to it and tie it to Parkinson's somehow. And so that's kind of where it started. The name PD Shimmers, PD obviously for Parkinson's disease, and I gave it some thought and came up with like a tongue-in-cheek approach. That Shimmers kind of like the electrical equivalent of tremor for Parkinson's, which is the most common outward symptom.
Okay, and this was no small endeavor for you. I mean, this was an extensive light display. What are we talking about in terms of manpower?
Well, pretty much you're looking at it. As it went on, I had a very good friend of mine, now John Cook, who became my right-hand man, basically. And he would help me, especially in the last few years where it was a little more difficult for me, but he'd help me get things done and get it set up, make sure we made our deadlines. But it's like you wear a lot of hats when you're a light show guy. I have no training in electronics or electrical, in webcasting or website, video, all the stuff, music. It's all learned from scratch, basically. So to have people enjoy the show that in the way that they did, it was pretty gratifying, and it kind of became a new illustration for Parkinson's that if you're retired, you need something to do, and find a passion, find something you wanted to do your whole life, and just do it. And jump in head first. There's nothing wrong with that. And it became therapy for me. Parts of setup days prior, to getting the show open, I'd walk 25,000 steps, and did that for multiple days. I told this to my neurologist, and she wanted to kill me. Because you're not 40 anymore, and you have Parkinson's. You can't do what you're doing.
And you're outside in Minnesota.
That's right. So first tip, like Jason Kopaz, my hat's off to him, because his fundraiser's in summer. His golf outing. Mike, he picks the dead of winter. That wasn't too smart.
Well, it sure made an impact. I mean, you had a lot of people go through. I imagine the neighbors some days were like, "Yeah, this thing is great," but you sure brought the traffic through.
Well, I did. my neighbors were amazing. I couldn't do without the neighbors. And I literally, the first night of the show, I had the mayor of Plymouth would come and open up the show for me. Kelly Slavic only missed 1 year when she was mayor, and that was the first year, and it's because I didn't ask her. But other than that, she opened every show. The opening night, I call it Mayor's Night, and then we'd have a little get-together, reception after the show started at my house for all my neighbors, which was a chance for me to kind of make some peace before the Google traffic maps lit up flashing red in my neighborhood.
Mike, is there a particular moment from the history of the 12 years at Light Show that really stands out for you?
There certainly is. I have a video that illustrated for you too. In 2014, I think it was, after the show concluded in January, I received a letter in the mail. And the letter started, "Dear Mike, thank you for the light show that you do. Last year, I was one of your lights." And what he was referencing is the piece in the show where it was all the lights would be off, and then the announcer comes on and he explains that we're going to do an unusual thing in light shows. We're going to turn all the lights on simultaneously at full brightness. And there's 58,000 lights, one for each person newly diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2014. And I received this letter from one of my lights, and he explained that his wife had heard about my show and thought it may help him with his diagnosis if he saw the show. And he confirmed that it did, that he realized that he's not alone in his fight. And it's another one of those powerful moments that
You bet.
I'm pretty proud of.
Well, and as you should be. You were 46 when you were diagnosed with 4 children living at home. How did your kids deal with that?
Well, they're troopers. How I don't know how to explain how they didn't have any choice, but they joined in. They joined in and helped just about any way they can, especially like during the light show time. I mean, I think stuff that you don't really think about, but Christmas Eve is my biggest night. I have to be here. So they would come have, Christmas in the house. This is as they were getting older, obviously, with the grandkids. Basically I went to work for 30 days. Any way they could help me during that time period, I would take advantage of.
One of the things that we have found in this journey, and for me, I'm still in its infancy, is you need a team. You need backup. You mentioned your wife Karen early in this discussion. Without going to pieces, can you talk about the role that Karen has played in her support of you?
Oh gosh, where to start? If you'd have seen my garage, first of all, I mean, 60,000 lights take up a little bit of space. And I used every creative way to put those lights away that I could. I've often said, and I really believe this, that when you're looking at from the outside in, who has the worst part of the whole thing? Me, as the subject of Parkinson's, or my spouse, the person has to care for the person with Parkinson's? And far and away, I think I have the easier end of the deal. Because she's just an amazing woman and has been my strength for 39 years now. And again, she gave up 12 Christmases basically for me to put on my light show, and I love her.
I met her. You way outkicked your coverage. That's all I'm going to say. You touched on exercise earlier. Do you have like a current exercise protocol, or what does that look like right now at this age and stage in your life?
Well, I wish it would look a little stronger than it does. I do the best I can. I have a kind of an arthritic knee that I have to baby somewhat, but it's like I don't run marathons, but I'll bike. I have a recumbent tricycle that has a powered wheel. And the funny thing about Parkinson's is spinning is proven to be at like 60 revolutions a minute. Is proven to help ease your symptoms. But you don't have to. It's not a cardio thing that eases the symptoms. It's just the motion of your legs spinning. So if I take the electronic portion of the bike and put it on like turbo assist, where I'm not doing a lot of force, but my legs are spinning, I could get the benefits from it. So I'll ride my bike, weather permitting, through the summer, almost every day, or at worst every other day, for 10 miles a day or so, about an hour on the bike. That's my primary. I used to love boxing, but that's a little more stress on the knee. And especially with the pandemic, rock steady boxing. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yes.
But yeah, it's anybody that could do rock steady boxing. I would encourage to find any way you can to do it, because it just incorporates so many things in Parkinson's all into 1 hour. It's an amazing workout, and it's like scientifically proven again to help and ease your symptoms.
And for the people who aren't familiar with it, you do not get punched at all. It is going through simulating the workouts of a fighter, a boxer, but you are not sparring.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a mental thing too, because first you have to know how to throw the punch safely at a punching bag. Then there's repetition of that, because the person running the class will start calling out punches for you to throw, and you have to remember what they are and how to do them and execute that. And then there's balance involved. There's cardio. Just about everything that you want to wrap into a Parkinson's workout. It's there.
Yeah, for sure. We talked about earlier going into this, what was going to be sort of the theme of this program, and you had a couple thoughts, and I've definitely arrived at where I want to go with this, and I hope you're okay with it, because one of the things you said was you have to be your own best advocate, and I think that speaks for itself. So I want to go with the other one, which is, you said your theme is choose optimism, and can you please expand on that for us?
Well, certainly. It's kind of my slogan for the last several years, that you have a choice in life every day, and which path do you want to go down? Choose optimism. Choose the path of optimism. Again, it's proven that if you're in good spirits and around optimistic people, you can help spiral yourself up, as opposed to the opposite, where the negativity, you could find yourself in a downward spiral that it's very difficult to get out of. Parkinson's is it tries to suck the life out of you, basically. So having people around you to help find, know the ways to help get you going and pick you up again. My friends will offer to ride with me, or just check in and see, hey, you want to do this, or something I could help you with, and or just tell me a funny story. Humor is a good way to try to keep you on track as well.
I love it, Mike Justak. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your story about your journey with the Parkinson's Project, but also for everything that you have done and continue to do for the community throughout your foundation, and the way you continue to attack this disease. You are an inspiration, and we appreciate you. Where can people find your foundation, Mike?
Well, it's www.pdshimmers.com. It's probably the easiest way to find it. Or you have mjfpd.org. Either way, it'll get you to the same place. Or you probably just Google PD Shimmers, and you'll have 10 pages worth of stuff that'll pop up pretty quick.
And obviously, PD Shimmers is a very visual thing, and Mike did want to share pictures. And the format we're using, let's just say that the operator didn't know how to do that. So Mike's going to send his pictures to me, and I'm going to get them to an editor, and we're going to put them in. So we will get that done. So that'll be part of what people can look forward to if they go and check us out, the vlog portion of this rather than the podcast version. But Mike, thank you. I don't want you to be a stranger. I feel lucky to have met you. I don't think that was an accident. And now that you've got my information and I've got yours, I look forward to working with you and your foundation going forward.
Well, likewise. Hey, when you say, it's kind of funny you use the words, "there's no accident." A very funny thing, I don't think you even know this, but years and years ago, our wives met. And, talk about the destiny thing. My wife was at the top of the off ramp for Rockford Road off the 494, and your wife came up behind her and kind of was in a little bit of distress. I think there was some illness in the family, and she bumped into the back end of my wife's car. And so, my wife, they get out and they talk, and there was no damage. Everything's fine. But I said, my life has these strange things in them that ultimately seem to come together.
That is a story that I've heard half of, right? I did not know that your wife was the other part of that. I'm glad that there was no damage, no injury. And thank you for not being litigious and suing. Because other people might have done that, handled that differently. So I owe you.
Not at all.
Mike, be well.
You too, Tim. Thank you.
I look forward to talking to you soon. All right. The Parkinson's Project, as you know, seeks to be a place where you can come for a range of information about PD and to find support for yourself or for perhaps someone that you love. We encourage you to please check us out on Facebook at the Parkinson's Project, and you can find the Parkinson's Project podcast wherever you find your favorite podcasts. So please check us out and rate us so we can continue to grow and give support in the ongoing effort to eradicate this affliction and, again, to put ourselves out of business. This has been the Parkinson's Project podcast. For executive producer Pat Forcia, I'm Tim McNiff. I want to thank you for joining us. We look forward to meeting and working with all of you as we continue to build a supportive, empowering community through all aspects of the Parkinson's Project.
Thank you for engaging with the Parkinson's Project podcast. Be sure to look for more content on the Parkinson's Project Facebook page, and we'll see you right here on the next edition of the Parkinson's Project podcast.